Hey, good morning. It's Wednesday, July 17th, I do believe. And on Wednesdays, we recap on the 100-day challenge of the week before. But today, I decided to do a little something different. If you are a friend of mine on Facebook, you may have seen the post that my friend and mentor, Lillian McMorris, passed yesterday. And if it wasn't for her, none of this stuff would ever be happening. People ask me, you know, um, how did I learn how to be on camera, or how did I learn how to do an interview, or any of that? Lillian, she was our Oprah here in Las Vegas. She still holds the title of the longest running talk show in Southern Nevada. I believe it was over 10 years. And she was with Fox 5. And I met Lillian on the day she retired from Fox 5. She announced it on television. And I called the station. I was a web designer and a computer geek. And it was 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. And I called the station and I said, I'd like to speak to Lillian McMorris, thinking she'd never going to answer the phone. So, because I had no plan. And the receptionist transferred me, and this voice said, "This is Lillian McMorris. How may I help you?" And I just stuttered. I didn't know what to say, what to do. I knew I wanted to work with her. And I was like, and I guess I got enough out that she wanted to know more. And she invited me to lunch. Well, that started it all. And right then and there, this is before we created Black Insight Magazine. It was before, we ever did any show. Before I even thought about being a producer, I met Lillian. And she took me on my first radio show, which was on George Carson's network, All Talk Radio. And I was terrified. They had to roll my butt into the room in front of the mic because I was too scared to talk. And I sat there for the first good minute of that interview, nodding my head and shaking my head. And she put her hand over the mic and said, "Honey, they can't hear you. This is radio. You have to talk." Well, I spent the next 30 minutes or so saying yes, no, maybe. And that was my first interview ever on radio. She always threatened she was going to put that out there. I need to talk to her daughter, Rose, and make sure Rose doesn't put that out there, because it was very interesting. So I talked with Rose yesterday and said I wanted to do this today. Lillian was always my go-to. Whenever I came up with a crazy idea, whenever I wanted to learn something new. I tell the story all the time that I learned production by hiring a production company out of the phone book. And back then, you didn't go look for production. You looked for wedding planners and wedding videographers and photographers, and you hired them and hoped they knew what they were doing. But Lillian knew what to do, and she sat in that chair, and she taught me almost everything I know. So I'm going to try to get through this without bawling like a baby. But I wanted to share a little bit. So about 10 years ago, I came up with this idea to do this show called My Chapter and Verse. One light, one life. One chair, one light, one life. And I just wanted to have people come and sit in the chair and share a little bit of their story. So who's going to be first in the chair? Lillian McMorris. Because she did everything for me. So I wanted to share a little bit of that clip. Take it away, Alec.
I was adopted because my maternal grandmother did not want me. So I was given, back in the day, given to a family who wanted a little girl. That was one of the first blessings of my life. What would I tell that little girl? If I could talk to her now, the person that I am, I would definitely warn her of life's challenges and getting over the humps and bumps in life. And some things, perhaps if we listen to other people, you don't have to experience. My love for community comes from my parents. Robert and Josie Russell. They came to Las Vegas in the 1940s, lived in the West Las Vegas area, which at that time was just muddy, dirt, cardboard boxes, sawdust on the ground. Worked very hard. My father worked very hard to make sure that his family was taken care of. And they loved me. They had a ranch on Valley View in Cyrus, and their door was always open. My mother was very, 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 very religious. She was a mother of the church, missionary, Bible-toting, as one would say. My father, yes, he was in the church, but he had his little side things, but he was such a wonderful, loving, caring man. And they loved and cared for me. It's indescribable. And their door was always open to anybody who came by. If they needed water, if they needed food, if they needed anything, Mother would always find a way to help them, friend or foe. And our family, or I should say extended family, was humongous. And being an only child, I never was lonely because there was always people around. And when people would come and they needed food, Mother would go, if something wasn't prepared, which she always had a pot on the stove, and they could eat. If they needed clothing, she always had something to give. You know, we're talking about where everything came from with me and how giving and caring and loving my parents were. And because they were so giving and very involved, you know, we would call it politics now, but back then, politics wasn't one of those buzzwords. It was just being involved in change in your community. And there were so many, many people who came to Southern Nevada to work, to take care of their families, whether it's with Hoover Dam, the titanium plant, getting jobs on the Strip, which was very small at that time, but still a good job at a hotel was good. And my father, Robert Russell, was very ingrained with, you know, Judge Foley and all of those people that made the laws back then. And there was a little road out near what is now McCarran Airport. And a lot of people traveled it on their way back and forth to Henderson to go to work. And they didn't have a name for it. And from what I understand, that some of the older people have told me, and UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, actually did some historical research, and it's in there. Russell Road was named after our family. That was indeed a blessing, getting in front of the camera. As a single parent, I worked many jobs. Some, at one time, I remember working 3 jobs at the same time. Giving good customer service. That's always been my thing, is good customer service. Your tone of voice is so important. And I tell my girls now, put a mirror on your desk. So when you answer that phone, people can tell when you have a smile on your face. I was the first African-American floor manager at Sassy Sally's. I was manager, actually, at Sassy Sally's and Coin Castle. And then I went to dealer school, and I became a dealer. And then I ended up at the Hacienda Hotel. Not as a dealer, though. Again, I have people still come to me, and they go, we remember you from, weren't you at the Hacienda? Again, African-American woman floor manager at the Hacienda. So firsts are a lot. It's amazing when you look back on your life and you realize the way that you have paved. And being so community involved, and my girls were in pageants, and they did community service at various things, and they were on a show on Fox 5 just showing what I was doing in the community and how I had these young girls out here doing stuff and giving back to the community. And a very, very good friend now, Miss Deborah Campbell, was the host of the show, AM Southern Nevada. And I remember one time going on there and just saying that this would be so much fun, you know. That's all I left it. Next time I went for something I was doing in the community, probably with the Cancer Society more likely, I had won round trip tickets to Paris from one of the huge benefits they had at the Cancer Society. So as the winner, I got to go. And she told me, she said, I'm putting in my notice. I got a great job offer at United Way. She said, I think you should put in your application. And I said, no way. So I went home, and of course you tell your kids, and you never know that your kids are actually listening to you. And my baby girl, Rose, regurgitated everything that I had ever told her about don't worry about being different. You can always be the best that you can be. You never know unless you try. Don't give up. She told me all of this. So, of course, I went back to Fox 5 and just dropped an application, not really concentrating or thinking because I knew I had no, and everybody said people that were already in the media were trying to get their own talk show. So they called me back, and they called me back, and they called me back. Like I had like 5 interviews, and they called me back and made me an offer, and that was the blessing, and that's where it all began. You say on OJT, they used to have on-job training. I had it. That was such a blessing to get hired at Fox 5, and I can thank Rusty Durant for believing in me, believing in our community, because his thing is Fox 5 is a community station. He was born and raised here. He started, sweeping the floors. By the time I get there, he'd been there 34 years. And he trained me. He had people train me and mold me. And he was so interested in what I was doing in the community. I had complete 1,000% leeway to continue or to grow or to make Fox 5 at that time the community station. So AM Southern Nevada with Lillian McMorris was born, and that was a wonderful 10-year stretch. And anyone who asked me at any time, I have never then nor now had a boss as great as Rusty Durante. And being able to allow me to grow my dream in our community and get so involved in, it's like I said, it started with the American Cancer Society, but get ingrained in so many nonprofit organizations, whether they came on my show, whether I produced a public service announcement, or at that time, like as I do now, go out and host an event or moderate a panel, educating the community. So that's kind of my journey through the work, and I retired after that 10-year stretch. Why did I retire? I don't know. I think I'm working harder now than I did then. But I'm still doing the same thing because I love my community and I love our nonprofit organizations and their goals and what they give, the programs that they have that they give to our community and helping people. That's the bottom line with me, being able to help people. We are in our community for our community. I'm Lillian McMorris, and we'll talk to you next time.
Well, now you know where I got my clothes from for all of my shows. It was something that she requested. She said, I need to know you're okay out there. Because of medical issues, she couldn't do it anymore. So that's why I closed my show, that I'll talk to you next time. I had the privilege of producing several shows with Lillian, including the Lillian McMorris Show that we aired on Cox here in Las Vegas, and Community Empowerment. She was behind the scenes with almost everything that I did, including Expert Talk. She would send me messages and say, what are you wearing? And why are you wearing it? What's up with that hair? If she saw me right now and saw the gray, she would say, have you called Dee? Because it's time. She was my friend, my mentor, my sister. And I cannot tell you how much she's going to be missed. Yeah. So before I'm a puddle, I want to thank her for everything she did. And George Carson, because he taught me radio. Mark Freed taught me production. I stood behind him on cameras and sound and lighting, and he taught me everything and still does. We still work together. George and I have projects we have coming soon. And Anna Maria Davis taught me Hollywood. People paid it for me. That's why I pay it for it for others. So before I'm a puddle, I'm Tika. I'll talk to you next time.